Let me just share my screen over here. Then we will. Yeah, man. Okay. I don't know now. I'm taking a class. Okay, so is everybody able to see the screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Screen,
Yes,
screens.
sir.
Okay, 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 okay. Okay, re Baba. Okay. Yeah, so yesterday we had started with the Delhi Sultanate, and we learned that from Turkey we had people who came into India, occupied India, and established their power in India. So the first dynasty which comes under this Delhi Sultanate was the slave dynasty, because they were mainly slaves who were put in by Muhammad Ghori. When he left India, he put a slave in charge, and that slave established their own rule in India. That was called as a slave dynasty because it began from a slave. And few of the prominent or popular sultans, we learned about them. We learned about what they did, what monuments they built. We also learned about Razia Sultan, who is probably the only woman king or ruler or sultan in the entire Delhi Sultanate. So that was the first slave dynasty. Second, which we have, is the Khalji dynasty. Very similar to the slave dynasty, the Khalji dynasty also was extremely powerful, and there were few rulers over here tried to expand the territory which was there under the Delhi Sultans. A few popular rulers over here, and one very popular ruler over here was Alauddin Khalji. You might have seen the movie Padmavat. I don't know if you have seen it, but in this movie, they have shown this
Yes, sir.
ruler Alauddin Khalji. Yeah, of course, in real life, he was not such a bad villain. In the movie, they have shown him as a very bad villain, but in real life, he is actually appreciated for many of the administrative changes which he has brought in his during
Sir,
his
which
kingdom.
movie?
Padmavat.
Okay, sir.
If anytime you do get a chance, you can watch it. It might be available online. You can watch it. It's okay, informative kind of movie. So the Khalji dynasty. So the popular rulers under this Khalji dynasty was Jalaluddin Khalji. After him came Alauddin Khalji, and then there was Qutbuddin Shah. Approximately for around 30 years, the Khalji dynasty ruled in Delhi. Jalaluddin Khalji established the Khalji dynasty. The founder of Turkish dynasty, Jalaluddin Khalji, was 70 when he ascended the throne. So he was pretty old, quite old when he became the Sultan. He defeated the descendants of Balban, being victorious, and came to power. He was kind hearted, mild, and trusting in nature. The most important event during the reign of Jalaluddin was the attack on the Yadava city of Devgiri. Next, we have Alauddin Khalji, who ruled for 20 years from 1296 to 1316 Common Era. The new emperor of Delhi, Alauddin Khalji, murdered his uncle Jalaluddin Firoz to gain the throne. So Alauddin Khalji did not become the king just because the he was chosen. In fact, he murdered his uncle Jalaluddin, and then he took the power for himself and became the Sultan. It was his ambition to establish a vast empire. He introduced more controversial policies. All religious lands were confiscated, and marriages between noble families were sanctioned by the king. The emperor also introduced market and price control of food grains, clothes, and other essentials. The land revenue was raised and made more efficient. Thus, the emperor enforced a highly centralized system of government. What this all means is that Alauddin Khalji was a different kind of ruler as compared to the earlier sultans. Now, Alauddin Khalji, once he became the sultan, one of the first things he did was he established a market system and he fixed prices in the market. The price of food grains, these were fixed. The price of vegetables and fruits, these were fixed. The price of other necessary items which we require in your household, these prices were fixed. What he did was he did not want the people to suffer because of extremely high prices. He did not want the traders to make unnecessary profits. So that is why he fixed these prices. This idea of fixing prices also was further continued many years afterwards, and many other rulers also used the same idea. So a few administrative changes were brought by him. The way in which revenue was collected. Land revenue means the tax on land. Farmers hold land, landlords were there who would own lots of land. So, how to collect tax from these landlords, how to collect tax from these farmers? Idea was given by Alauddin Khalji and he implemented and collected taxes in that way in a very efficient manner from the landlords and the farmers. These were the things that were done by Alauddin Khalji. So if you see the empire of Alauddin Khalji, he had expanded the Delhi Sultanate to a large area actually. Alauddin Khalji. Right. So this part about Jalaluddin Khalji and Alauddin Khalji, is it clear? Any doubts by anyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, after the Khalji dynasty, we have the Tughlaq dynasty. Under the Tughlaq dynasty, we have a few famous rulers, that is Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, then Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, and Muhammad Shah Tughlaq. One of the most popular Tughlaq ruler was Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Ghazi Malik ascended the throne as Sultan Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq Shah and founded the third dynasty of the Sultanate. The Tughlaqs belonged to the Kurna Turk tribe. There was a particular tribe of Turkey to which tribe the Tughlaq dynasty belonged to. So Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, he was an able statesman and administrator and advocated a policy of tolerance instead of harsh punishments. So compared to Alauddin Khalji, this Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq was a much more, quieter person, and he did not punish people for many of the crimes. He adopted a policy of tolerance. He carried out many works of public utility, provision of water facilities to the people, provision of proper roads, all these things, these public utility works was carried out by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. And after he died, Muhammad bin Tughlaq became the Sultan of Delhi from 1324 to 1351. For almost 26 years, Muhammad bin Tughlaq ruled after Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. So among the Tughlaq dynasty, we have Muhammad Tughlaq and Firoz Tughlaq who stand out. Muhammad Tughlaq was grossly misunderstood and ascended on account of his five ambitious projects. Now, Muhammad bin Tughlaq is one sultan who tried many new kinds of ideas. His kinds of ideas were very much different from the earlier sultans of Delhi, and his kind of ideas. Some of them were popular, many of them were actually big failures. The ideas that he tried to put on page number 27 in your textbook, you will see a comparison between Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Yeah, as I was saying, on page number 27, you will see a comparison between Muhammad bin Tughlaq and Alauddin Khalji because these are two popular rulers. So Alauddin Khalji had a way in which he used to run his government, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq had a different way in which he used to run his government. So on page number 27, let us read the achievements or the way in which Muhammad bin Tughlaq used to run his government. On page number 27, it is there. I will read it out. You can all please listen. One thing what he did was Muhammad bin Tughlaq was able to defeat the Mongol army and raised a standing army to plan an attack on them in Traxoceania. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the Mongol army was trying to invade India and occupy territories in India. He was able to destroy, he was able to fight against this Mongol army. The residents of the oldest city of Delhi were made to leave and the soldiers occupied it. One idea of Muhammad bin Tughlaq was he wanted to move his capital city from Delhi to Devgiri. He wanted to move that, and this was probably one of the bad ideas which he tried to implement and became a big failure. He raised taxes in a particular region, and that is the Doab region. Muhammad bin Tughlaq increased the land tax in the Ganga Yamuna Doab region in order to meet the expenses of the army. At this time, the region was suffering from a famine. Famine means a shortage of crops. And as there is a shortage of crops, obviously the farmers will not have crops for selling and they obviously cannot have money to pay the taxes. And during this time only, Muhammad bin Tughlaq increased the taxes in those regions. At this time, the region was suffering from famine. The peasants of the region rose in protest and the situation went out of control. Payments to the soldiers. Muhammad bin Tughlaq also paid his soldiers in cash. Issuing of token currency. Muhammad bin Tughlaq issued bronze and copper token currency to overcome the financial crisis. The crisis was a drain on the royal treasury, and as a result of his schemes, the coins had the same value as gold and silver coins. The forgery of new coins forced the Sultan to withdraw all the token currency from the market. So we can see over here that many times he tried to do some changes, but always there was a problem in that, and he would fail on many occasions. He tried to issue new kind of currency because he had to pay the farmers, and when he tried to issue this currency was being forged, means fake currency was being made by the people in his kingdom. So that also became a failure. Shifting of the capital. Soon after his accession to the throne, Tughlaq transferred the capital from his court and officials as well as the entire population from Delhi to Devgiri, which was later named as Daulatabad in the Deccan. And the problem was this the Sultan believed that the central location of Devgiri would enable him to exercise control throughout the country and protect the Sultanate from continuous Mongol attacks. Extensive arrangements were made for the journey, but many people did not survive the long journey, and again, this operation also was a failure. So what he did was he tried to increase taxes, but since there was a famine, people could not collect the taxes, and that was again a failure. So to make up for the shortage of funds, he started introducing more currency, token currency. That token currency started people started making fake currency for that, so that also was a failure. Then he thought of shifting the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, and during the shifting process, many people died, so that also was a failure. So many reforms he tried to put in place, but unfortunately, these reforms were big failures. These are the few, again, a just summary of that. Transfer of capital from Delhi to Devgiri, introduction of token currency, expedition of the conquest of Kusan and Iraq, conquest of Karchil scheme, increase in land revenue in the Doab. These are the different things that he tried to implement in the country. The last Tughlaq Sultan of the Tughlaq dynasty is Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, who succeeded his cousin Muhammad bin Tughlaq, learnt his lessons well. He aimed at consolidating his empire and hence took a number of measures aimed at reforming the administration. He undertook many humanitarian measures such as banning inhuman punishments, setting up hospitals for the poor, and so on. So Firoz Shah Tughlaq introduced significant modifications in the tax structure. He founded the city of Firoz Shah Kotla in Delhi. His death in 1388 was followed by a series of rebellions, and this hastened the end of the Tughlaq dynasty. So that was Firoz Shah Tughlaq, who tried to correct the mistakes of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So that was the Tughlaq dynasty. Has everybody understood about this Tughlaq dynasty? Any doubts by anyone? Are you able to hear me, students?
Uh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
okay.
Yes, sir.
So about this Tughlaq dynasty, has
Yes,
everybody
sir.
everybody understood? No doubts, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that is very good.
Yes, sir.
I'm surprised how nobody has any kind of doubts. Okay, so next we will go to the Sayyid dynasty. After the Tughlaq dynasty, we have the Sayyid dynasty. Khizar Khan. Khizar Khan, he was the founder of the Sayyid dynasty and he had collaborated with Taimur. As a reward, he was given the governorship of Lahore. Now, Taimur was basically from Mongolia. He was a Mongol and he had invaded. He was a Mughal and he had invaded India. And once he left India, Taimur left India, he put Khizar Khan as the ruler. From where am I getting this sound? Can someone please, Samruddhi, can you please mute your phone? Okay, yeah, thank you. Bhargavi has asked something I'm not able to read. What is the meaning of Viceroy? Is it? Okay, Viceroy is a title which is given to a person like a governor. That is a title given to a person who is given the control of a particular city or a particular district. He is called as a Viceroy, like a similar to a governor. Okay, yeah. Yeah, in 1414, he invaded Delhi and became the master of Delhi. Alauddin Alam Shah was the last ruler of the Sayyid dynasty and hardly did more than sustain the Sultanate in Delhi until 1451. So, this Sayyid dynasty which we have is possibly one of the last rulers of the Turkish empire who ruled in the Delhi dynasty, in the Delhi Sultanate. And after the Sayyid dynasty, we have the Lodhi dynasty who had come into power in the Delhi Sultanate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the Lodhi dynasty, which was from 1451 to 1526, about 75 years, the Lodhis ruled in Delhi, and a few of very important things which the Lodhis did in Delhi was lots of architectural achievements. They built many big parks and gardens in Delhi. Bahulur Lodi, the governor of Shri Hind or Punjab, became the new Sultan of Delhi in 1451. The Lodi dynasty was the first dynasty of Afghan rulers. Now, the Delhi Sultans till now were only Turkish rulers, but the Lodi dynasty was the first who were of Afghan descent, and they had come from Afghanistan. So they were the Afghani rulers that had come into power during the Sultanate period. Bahulul was succeeded by his son Sikandar Lodi in 1489, who laid the foundation of the city of Agra in 1503. He was succeeded by his son Ibrahim Lodi in 1517. The first battle of Panipat in 1526 saw Ibrahim Lodi's defeat at the hand of Babur and the final fatal blow to the existence of the Delhi Sultanate. So the Lodi dynasty was the last dynasty under the Delhi Sultanate, and these Lodis they were from Afghanistan. They were Afghan rulers who had got power in Delhi and they had established their rule. So in this Lodi dynasty, we had the first Bahulul Lodi, then followed by Sikandar Lodi, and last one was Ibrahim Lodi. Ibrahim Lodi was defeated by Babur. Babur was the first king empire in the Mughal Empire. That is the next chapter which we will be learning. So Ibrahim Lodi was defeated at the hands of Babur in the first battle of Panipat in the year 1526, and that was the end of the Lodhis in Delhi. These are the few architectural achievements of the Lodhis in Delhi. There are the famous Lodhi Gardens is there in Delhi, a very huge, vast area of greenery and gardens, in between which we have the tomb of Ibrahim Lodi. Right. So let us read a few things about the Sultanate administration. What were the specialities about the Sultanate administration? What were the changes that they did in Delhi? The Sultan. The Sultan was the central and most significant person in the Sultanate. He defended the empire against external attacks and maintained law and order. He was the commander in chief. He was the commander in chief of the army as well as the chief justice of the empire. These were all the powers that were given to the Sultan of Delhi. Now, the noble people or the rich people who were there in the court, what did these people do? The nobles occupied civilian and military positions in the Sultanate and worked closely with the Sultan. In order of ranks, the Khans were the highest, followed by the Maliks and the Amirs. So there was an order of ranks in the nobles, and the Khans were the highest ranking. They were followed by the Maliks, and then lower than them were the Amirs. The salaries of the nobles were arranged from the revenue assigned to them. Whatever revenue or tax was collected, from that the salaries of these noble people were paid. And according to a system which is called as the Ikta system, the land resources of the Sultanate were divided and given to the nobles in lieu of cash for their services. Iktadars or revenue collectors, these people they collected taxes from the farmers in the villages and used the same income to maintain the army. In order to meet the requirements of the royal palace, karkhanas or workshops headed by the maliks were set up wherein various items such as cloth, paintings, and other articles were produced. At times, military goods were also produced in these workshops. It is interesting to note that slaves were appointed as personal assistants as well as administrative officials in the Delhi Sultanate. Let us see about the officials in the Sultan's court. Who are the officials in the Sultan's court? There were various different officials. There were wazirs, there was Aris a Mumalik, then there was Wakil, there was Amir, there was Chief Qazi. Different officials were appointed in the court for the day-to-day functioning of the Sultan's court. How was the army? The army was a significant component of the Sultanate. The army consisted of the infantry or foot soldiers, cavalry or horse soldiers, archers, and elephants. Horses of good quality were of utmost importance and therefore they were imported from Arabia. The best quality horses were imported from Arabia by the sultans and they were used in the army in India. Alauddin Khalji maintained a detailed description of each soldier known as Chera and branded each horse in his army known as Dag. Land revenue was collected in cash during his reign, hence, soldiers were also paid in cash. What about the social and economic life under the Delhi Sultans? The Sultan depended on regular income from land in order to pay the officials, maintain the army, and contrast and construct buildings. Various kinds of taxes, such as kharaz or land tax and house tax, were used to extract revenue. All the administrative posts in the Sultanate were reserved by the nobles who constituted the ruling class in society. The distinctions of the caste system permeated to all religion. So all religions were there in the Delhi Sultanate, and the caste system it spread out to the different religions during this particular Delhi Sultanate. Slaves were bought and sold in huge numbers in the market. The peasants lived in conditions of most poverty. They were subjected to oppression from land revenue and their demands for heavy taxes. So during the Delhi Sultanate, we can see here that during the yeah, 1 minute, one question is there over here. Fought by Babur and Lodi Ibrahim, who fought second battle of Panipat. Just now we learned the first battle of Panipat. So please remember the first battle of Panipat. When we go to the second battle of Panipat, at that time we will learn about the second battle of Panipat. Okay, so up till now in this entire lesson, this is almost the end of the lesson. We learned about the Tughlaq dynasty. We learned about the Khalji dynasty, then the Tughlaq dynasty, and then we learned about the Sayyids, and last we learned about the Lodi dynasty. So now I want you to tell me whether everything is understood or does anybody have any other doubt? Okay, let me try to read this. Sir, till now the monuments are there which have built by Delhi Sultan. Yes, till now most of the monuments are there. Most of the monuments are preserved by the government. The government takes care of these monuments because many tourists come to see these monuments. These monuments are actually signature monuments for India. You can okay, yeah. Okay, yes. So this is actually the end of the Delhi Sultanate. What you will be doing now in your notebooks, everyone please listen carefully, is before you start writing the question and answers for this lesson, you will first go to page number 21 in your textbook. Everyone can go to page 21 in your textbook. And there you will find a small chart. At a glance, the Delhi Sultanate, the names of the different kings in the Delhi Sultanate and what the dynasties. And below that, you will also find a timeline, right? The periods for which the different sultans ruled. So you will be doing these two things in your notebook, and then after that, you will start writing the question and answers. Question answers, of course, you will be writing on your own. Read the lesson carefully 2-3 times with a pencil, underline the important words, important sentences, and in the same way you will also underline and mark your answers with a pencil. And once that is done, you will be writing that in your notebooks. Is
Sir,
yes, sir?
sir, we can do map of